right, now's the time. You've already seen the bottom 5 biggest assholes of 2015, and here we go with the biggest assholes of 2015. People whose antics have, despite their best efforts, managed to somehow spur some kind of social progress or in some way benefit society. All right, here we go. Tied. We have a tie for 5th place. Brian Williams, the former NBC News anchor. Some people had compared him to retired legendary NBC anchor Tom Brokaw, but turns out he was more like Ralph Phillips. For years, Williams made false claims about his role in military activities while covering war zones, claims he'd made during interviews that had never been fact-checked. After all, why check? If you can't trust the man entrusted by a major network to bring Americans factual news stories every night, who can you trust? That was rhetorical. But seriously, someone should have caught on when he claimed to have aided in the takedown of Cobra Commander. When finally caught in his lies, Williams' explanation was the journalistic equivalent of a dog ate his homework, didn't man up at all, and was suspended, then kicked down to the minors. Really, dude? Lying on camera when you've been given the trust of a nation and pretending to be a member of the Expendables? One word for you: asshole. Also tied for 5th place, Kim Davis. This nondescript county clerk became the unlikely face of the religious rights campaign to claim that equal marriage infringed on the rights of Christians. Despite or in spite of the law, Davis refused to issue marriage licenses for same-sex couples, using her strict Christian faith as justification. When Davis refused to comply with the law and perform her job, she was jailed for contempt of court. The right used this as an example of same-sex marriage laws penalizing religious Christians, which is a load of shit. Recognized clergy can legally refuse to participate in a gay wedding. That's their decision. A municipal clerk decides if paperwork is filled out correctly. They're not paid for their opinions. The freedom a religious person has always had, to avoid doing jobs that violate their faith, is to quit their job. If you're really a dedicated religious person, you'll make the sacrifice of finding other employment. Come on, Christianity is full of martyrs who were set afire, tortured, and otherwise killed defending their faith. Davis couldn't visit jobs.com? In all, Davis was a whiny little asshole. But the silver lining is the case provided a focal point for equal marriage to be tested in the real world, and the real world supported the secular institutions of the land and not the beliefs of a few. Number 4, Volkswagen. Volkswagen got nailed by the EPA for MacGyvering their special diesel engines to fake out emissions tests. The engines had been programmed to activate strong emissions controls only during laboratory testing, but in actual use emitted up to 40 times more pollutants. And this affected over 500,000 Volkswagens sold in the US. Go big or go home. When caught, Volkswagen's stock price fell by 1/3, and the CEO was toast. Remember, cheaters never prosper. Well, not cheaters who get caught. On the bright side, the scandal brought to light that cars from other companies were also prone to higher emissions during use than during their emission test scores. That includes Volvos, Jeeps, Hyundais, Citroens, Renault, and Fiats. The last 3, who gives a shit? But those just happened. They weren't engineered by renegade German car hackers. I will say, Volkswagen, cheating like that takes balls. But balls are just inches away from the asshole. Number 3, is there a bigger asshole move than tripping fleeing refugees and kicking children? Yes, there is. Suing them after you've done it. Petra Lazlo was a Hungarian TV journalist covering the EU refugee crisis at Hungary's border with Serbia, where she was caught on video first kicking a little girl and then tripping this man carrying his child, demonstrating an abhorrent lack of regard for human life that is usually reserved for Best Buy's Black Friday sale. At first, Lazlo said that she was trying to help police when the refugees surged forward, which is a stupid excuse because everyone knows that if you're a journalist who wants to help police, you need to wear colorful long johns. Lazlo said, "I was scared, and with the camera in my hands, I didn't see who was coming toward me." She says she didn't even know the man was carrying a child. For accuracy, let's go to the tail of the tape. Notice in both incidents, Lazlo held the camera in her hand, but not up to her eye, providing no barrier to her seeing what was coming. The area is pretty clear of visual obstructions, and the man runs toward Lazlo. And out comes the foot. If Lazlo is incapable of seeing what is right in front of her, it doesn't say much for her abilities as a video journalist. And by the way, I do not approve of the people who have added to this video with the Benny Hill theme. Alright, that was me. Lazlo was fired from her job and subjected to the kind of internet abuse and outrage that typically accompanies someone questioning white privilege on Twitter. Lazlo plans to sue Facebook for not taking down the torrent of nasty comments, though as Facebook pointed out, she did have the opportunity to click dislike. But the coup de grace is Lazlo is suing the guy she caused to fall on his kid because, according to her, he initially said the police tripped him, then changed his story. That he didn't initially know who tripped him is kind of understandable since he wasn't paying attention to who might trip him. Lazlo was charged by the Hungarian police for breaching the peace. But to be fair to her, where here do you see peace to be breached? Petra Lazlo believes she's unemployable as a camerawoman in Hungary after being depicted as a heartless racist and plans to leave Hungary to seek a place in Donald Trump's presidential campaign. And speaking of the Donald and the demeanor of his presidential campaign, it's appropriate that he comes in as number 2. The reason I think he's an asshole may not be the most obvious. Sure, he believes global warming is a hoax created by the Chinese to screw the American economy, but only 9% of his fellow Republicans agree with that, so he isn't changing many minds. And of course, Donald wouldn't believe in climate change. Everywhere he goes, the temperature is set at 72 degrees. And his views on women are hardly enlightened, but again, not really having much effect in shifting public discourse. No, Trump's inclusion on this list is his campaign strategy of using unapologetic race baiting to stir the passions of disaffected white Americans, claiming that Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers, Syrian refugees are ISIS terrorists, Muslims should be banned from entering the U.S., and supports black people being beaten up by mobs of white people at his rallies. While it's easy to write Trump off as a caricature, his tirades are having an effect on the American political landscape. The elevated stature Trump has as the top Republican candidate has given shelter to his racist screeds as a part of legitimate political discourse. Sorry, that was a lot of big words. In plain language, Trump's granted racists the license to be racist. And that is having an effect. A number of sources reporting elevated racist activity against especially American Latinos and Muslims, the primary targets of Trump's verbal diarrhea. But the big reason I call Trump an asshole, I don't think he really believes what he's saying. As a successful salesman, Trump is really just targeting his marketing to a receptive consumer base. For Trump, the Duck Dynasty crew are spokesmodels and NASCAR is a super PAC. As well, Trump's friendships and business dealings around the world show that he can't really be a hardcore racist. He just plays one on TV. And this makes him an asshole. In a sense, I'd respect him more if he was really a racist, because at least the crap he's been spewing would come from his actual beliefs. Outdated and ignorant beliefs, but real beliefs. For me, cynically stirring up hatreds between groups of Americans just for shits and giggles is worse than being a racist. Okay, maybe just as bad. But again, with the positive results of an asshole, Trump's racist jabs have made more Americans pull together against racism, demonstrating a more tolerant national attitude than ever before. In all, I'll be happy when Trump quits campaigning for a job he isn't qualified for, President of the United States, and goes after a job he is qualified for, President of the Hair Club for Men. And he's also a client. And here it is, the biggest asshole of 2015 is Martin Shkreli! Look at that face. Even a mother would want to punch it. Martin Shkreli, also known as Pharma Bro and by his online League of Legends name Imagine Cerebral, is the founder of Turing Pharmaceuticals. A bit of a Wall Street wonderkid, Shkreli made his first significant stock forecast at the age of 19, which is doubly impressive that he was only 19 when he was first investigated for securities fraud. Quite a keener, that boy. Duraprim is a drug used to treat toxoplasmosis, a blood disease that affects pregnant women and people with compromised immune systems, mainly AIDS patients. This year, Shkreli's pharmaceutical company bought the drug from another company, then he jacked the price up from $13.50 to $750 per pill.
Whoa.
To make this more relatable, subject to the same inflationary pressures, this is how much it would cost for a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos. Of course, a snack food doesn't compare to a medication some people can't survive without, unless you ask gamers on Twitch. In response to the public anger, good old Shkreli went on social media to mock people with AIDS. Oh, and also declare himself a god. Usually, gods get better haircuts. Why did Shkreli jack up the price? It depended on what day you asked him. It was to benefit his investors. No, it was to fund more research. No, it was to lower the cost to patients, which was a real WTF. But Shkreli continued to insist that the massive price hike would lower the cost to patients. Translation, hospitals would be on the hook for the tab, drawing needed funds from other areas of healthcare, raising taxes, and making HMOs more stingy than they already are. In Shkreli's plan, every taxpayer and person needing healthcare would take it up the ass, which is ironic with a drug used to treat AIDS. Note, New Year's resolution, no more jokes about gay sex. Pharma Bro promised to lower the drug price, then reneged, and to drown out the sounds of angry rhetoric, he could listen to the new Wu-Tang album, which he bought the only copy of for $2 million. Apparently you get really good acoustics with your head up your ass. But as I said, assholes deserve attention when they cause something positive to happen. And Shkreli's greed led to a competing company offering an analog to the drug for about $1 per pill, down from the $7.50 cost before Shkreli's tampering. And the outcry over the price increase sent a shot across the bow for other drug companies, some of whom had already raised the price of generic drugs to keep their increases within reason. Another good thing, the controversy stopped Shkreli from getting the lead role in Mr. Robot. Also, Shkreli believes that the negative attention prompted his arrest by the FBI recently on charges of federal securities fraud, which may finally knock that shit-eating grin off his face. So why did Shkreli beat Trump? Trump's biggest danger is if he gets elected, which he won't. Shkreli has actually affected the world by playing games with the lives of sick people and escalating healthcare costs. That is a real A1 asshole. And that's it! The biggest assholes of 2015. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for watching. Who am I kidding? Once I started saying goodbye, you guys clicked off to another video anyway. Alright, hasta la vista. Happy 2016.